Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dinner Parties Rehoboth Beach podcast. Dinner Parties Rehoboth Beach is a reality show taking place within the southern Delaware beach community. Our collective group of couples hold dinner parties in the Rehoboth Beach and Lewis areas at their homes or select party venues. Our cast are residents and members of the LGBTQ+ community who work and live in the community as business owners, community activists, in nonprofit, designers, and professional service providers. Each episode will focus on one couple's preparation and the experience around each of their dinner parties. All couples in attendance rate their experience by categories such as decorations, food and beverage, and entertainment. Our season finale will show a final party during the holiday season. Rehoboth Beach and Lewis, Delaware offer a unique backdrop as a beach town with wonderful shopping, ocean views, boating, and of course, beautiful beaches. In this podcast, we get to know each of our couples and their respective backgrounds with our host, Michelle Fenning, the creator of Dinner Parties Rehoboth Beach and co-founder of Blind Eye Productions. Today's episode showcases Chris Beagle and Eric Engelhart, otherwise known as the Beagleharts. We sat down with them and their dog Piper outside of CAMP Rehoboth in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. CAMP Rehoboth is a nonprofit community service organization dedicated to creating a positive environment inclusive of all sexual orientations and gender identities in Rehoboth Beach and its related communities. I'll let Chris and Eric tell you the rest and a little bit about their stories with our host, Michelle Fenning.
Hello, good people. So I'm here with cast members Chris and Eric, and we are going to be talking about Dinner Parties Rehoboth and other things, so you all can get to know our cast members and the great works that they're doing. So let's start out by introducing Chris and Eric, and you guys could briefly tell us your story of how you met and got together. And I know you're married, and we want to hear all about that.
Well, thank you for asking. We are Chris Beagle and Eric Engelhart, otherwise known as the Beagleharts. Mm-hmm. We met in September of 1989. I was in grad school at Penn State.
Yep.
And
I was undergrad at Penn State.
At Penn State, right. Yeah, and I was teaching organizational behavior, and I often love to say I've been organizing his behavior ever since.
Yeah, he's been trying.
But anyway,
he's trying.
No, we were really fortunate because I, being from a very conservative central Pennsylvania town, I wasn't even remotely dealing with the fact that I'm gay. And I had an ex-girlfriend that I probably would have proposed to had I not met him. But for the first time in my life, I realized I was not only attracted to a man, I was falling in love with a man. And it was, we love telling the story because...
Yeah. Well, the part of these skips is that we were friends. He was my teacher. We were friends for 9 months before we came out to each other. So we had that time to develop our friendship. Of course, I was always hoping for more than that. And
he was always cute because he would tell the office hours story.
Oh, I'd go to his office hours and all these girls would be hanging all over him. I'm like, oh, God.
And he was cute because the class ended at 11:50 in the morning, and he would be the last one to put all his books away in his backpack. When we had our JanSport backpacks back in the day.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there was a Wendy's across the street. And one day we're walking down the hall, and I am so nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's really cute. Oh my gosh. And he's like, would you want to grab lunch at Wendy's? And I'm like, yes. I couldn't stand Wendy's, but yeah. That was
so even though we were out to each other, we kid around that Wendy's Super Bar was our first date. So.
Really fancy. Because they used to have those all-you-can-eat Super Bars, right? And I'm like, we're sitting there, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm actually doing this, Uh-huh. I'm like, I'm gonna eat and eat and eat and eat so that I can make this last as long.
Did you hear that, Wendy's? We would love you as a sponsor.
Right.
It was the birth of our relationship.
Yeah.
But we were in a very straight crowd at the time, because I was certainly not dealing with my sexuality, and but it grew very quickly, and anyway, but fast forward, we We lived outside D.C. for a couple of years. I was in a bad car accident. We ended up going back to Penn State so I could get my master's finish, and we ended up buying our first house in New Hope in 1997 because he's from Bucks County.
Actually remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And you know, we started coming to Rehoboth in like 1996 or 7,
Yeah,
just
right
for
there.
like
Yeah.
a 3-day weekend or something.
Fell in love with it immediately.
So, you know, it was like a 3-day weekend the first year, and the next year it was like a holiday weekend, and then we went a week.
And we did a summer share.
Then we rented a house for 3 summers with friends from New Hope.
Right.
And I was involved with an organization back in New Hope called Fact Bucks County, Fighting AIDS Continuously Together, and it was a nonprofit. And where we're sitting right now, Camp Rehoboth, we started to attend some of their events when we were new to Rehoboth.
Right.
And I was immediately impressed with how fun they were, how successful they were, the close-knit support of this community, and it was a real draw for us. And in 2003, we bought a second home here. I've often said I have spent more time trying on a pair of jeans to make a decision than I did when we put our offer on the condo. It was like, it felt right. It was one of the most spontaneous things we've ever done.
That was great, though.
And at the time, we said, okay, so our goal is to early retire by 55.
That didn't happen.
Because we started using all of our vacation to come here. So it was like weekends became 3-day weekends, became 4-day weekends. And I mean, as fast as we could get here from New Hope on weekends when we had our second home.
Right.
And at a certain point, I don't know if it was a midlife, I hate the term midlife crisis, but like, why are we fighting this? We're beach bums by nature in all of the like positive senses of that term. And so, yeah, it was 3 years and a month later, we moved here full time in August of 06.
06. Yep.
So we've been here 17 years. And, you know, the work at Camp Rehoboth, it was interesting. We closed in August, and I think it was 5 days later. The biggest fundraiser that camp does on an annual basis is called Sun Festival. And it used to be Sundance, and it changed recently, a couple of years ago. And we had been here 5 days full time, and I was so desperate and eager and yearning to get involved. I walked in the convention center. I met Murray Archibald, who's one of the co-founders and who really is unequivocally the driving force behind establishing what an amazingly successful event that was for this organization 30 years ago. And I don't know, I fell in love with it immediately, and I just started volunteering, and I never looked back. I was elected to the board in 2010, was on for 13 years, 4 years as president, and one of the best experiences of my life, as I get emotional, because when Delaware started its efforts to pass civil unions, Steve Elkins, sadly our former executive director who passed away in 2018, he and I became two of the voices for Camp Rehoboth, and I was so honored to be under his wing, so to speak, because here's a gentleman that started this amazing organization with his husband Murray, and I didn't realize that they were probably mentoring me a bit for down the road, but I just got involved, and it was an amazing experience. He and I testified for the bill. Civil unions were passed. We had our civil union September 15th of 2011. 12. But then
Really?
Delaware made marriage legal on July 1st of 2013, and we've said it many times. We only were looking to convert our civil union.
Right. But we made it a bigger event and open to the...
We did it here.
To the community, and we did it here at Camp Rehoboth. So,
yeah, that one shot that you guys included is from right there on the stage.
Yeah.
We said many times during that very special time that it was so much bigger than Chris and Eric's big day. It was the LGBT community's big day because it was legal, and two very dear friends took us out to dinner before. I'm emotional again. Yeah. And they're like, I'll never forget this. They're older than we are, not by a lot, but anyway, they were mentors to me and great friends. And they said, you know what, boys, it's going to change everything, and it's going to change nothing. And that was so profound, because he's like, you'll be able to walk down the street holding hands with wedding rings on your hands, just like the straight couple on the other side, and it will be no legal difference, and it shouldn't be, no difference at all. And you're going to walk down that street the same way you did 1,000 times, but suddenly the power of having a legal marriage made it really, really special.
So you guys, I know there's some significance to your marriage. You were the first couple in Sussex County?
First male couple.
We were the first male couple. So there are marriage ceremonies, and each of the 3 counties picked a couple for a marriage ceremony that day, because there's normally a 24-hour waiting period. So they waived that. And former Senator Karen Peterson, who came out on the floor of the vote for marriage, she and her wife were the first couple at 9 a.m., and Eric and I were second at 10 a.m. here, and we chose to do it here because we wanted it to be a celebration for all of us.
Yep.
And as you know, I'm a crybaby. I'm like, we're not. I cried through our vows for the second time.
Yeah, he didn't do it just once.
I have cry face in every photo. It's like, really? Even the second time I could.
So I know that, like, you guys were very, very lucky in your life. You had the support of your loving families.
Yep.
That never once was questioned. And so that must mean an awful lot to where your journey is today and where you are as responsible citizens, a loving couple. You're involved in the community. So your family, I want just talk a little bit about, like, how important that was and how lucky you were to have all of that. Because I know there are a lot of people who did not have that.
Right. I mean, my family, when I came out to my parents, didn't go real smooth. And it took time. It might have taken, a few years for them to get comfortable with it. But we had a holiday party, and I invited relatives, and they all came, and we invited, select friends to the party, and they got to know them, and my mom was really impressed with how much we, connected with them, and we looked out for each other as our extended family. But my parents really came on board, and she loved this guy.
I loved her.
You stopped the payments, didn't you?
I mean, it's not all rosy. I mean, my mother, my stepfather are amazing.
Never blinked an eye.
No. Most of my family is very supportive. Some are not. To be frank, my father hasn't spoken to me in about more than a decade, really, because apparently I was too gay when I came to Delaware. But, no one has it all. I don't really like to talk about that a lot, but it is the reality, But I've said many times, he's made me the luckiest guy in the world.
Aww, I think it's so emotional. Please do.
I mean,
We're all crying now.
He saved me because, I probably, I would have proposed to my ex-girlfriend, and I would have done what I was supposed to do.
Right.
And,
But let's talk a little bit about that journey right now. I feel like today, people aren't faced with that so much anymore. They don't have to do what they're supposed to do.
Thank goodness.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, look how far in that short period of time, I truly believe that we've come.
Right. I agree.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because we have a connection here. My oldest friend in the world, older than I've known Eric. I'm going to cry again. She and I met at Bloomsburg University, where I got my bachelor's, and she and her husband's only son is our godson.
Right.
And at the age of 14, he came out, and we didn't even know. We had friends that like, really, Chris, you didn't realize? I'm like, I wasn't thinking about his sexuality. I'm like, I held him at his baptism, for goodness sakes. Like, that's not, it didn't matter as long as he was happy and healthy. And So, now he's a 22-year-old amazing young man who we are so proud
Very
of.
talented.
Incredibly
Also
talented,
very
yes.
talented, musically
Went to
talented.
Berkeley College of Music, and he's starting his first job on playing in the orchestra.
Wait, you got a job?
Yes. Yes. With the Ascent,
a new cruise line.
Okay.
Assisting the director, and he's also playing in the
orchestra. He's playing bass in the orchestra. Yeah. It was. His mom said it was a dream come true when she sent us the clip of him during a disco set that they were rehearsing for a show. I know, exactly.
Disco band. You know.
And Cousin Rita Ann, so
Yeah,
we
of
were all on the
course.
same taste. But anyway, but that's full circle because,
Right.
I mean,
But it was easy for him at 14. He had the courage to do it. He did it. He had loving parents, a family. Like it's.
Yeah.
And you're bringing me back to the point. This happens to me all the time. I get distracted and off track. But his mom, because we text everybody. But that day she's like, "Do you have time to talk tonight?" I'm like, "Sure. Is everything okay?" And she's like, "It will be." I'm like, oh my God. So I called and.
And Mish is a handful, by the way. Her name's Michelle. Too.
Yeah, and we're both crying.
Right.
She's like, I've loved you for like 30 years. I've never loved you more because Calder's been able to look up to you too.
Oh, that's so
And a normal, loving relationship. And,
right.
and so it's hard to measure that, but thank God he's growing up now in a world where, there's craziness
So
all
craziness
over the
out there,
place.
but yeah.
Guns are out of control in this country, and there are just so many issues that we worry about him. But the fact that topic is mostly off of his radar,
Yes.
and certainly in different ways than it was for us. Thank God.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what you guys do.
So I can stop crying.
Yeah. and this is your opportunity to talk about that, right? So, Chris, you're a realtor.
Yes, I
And
am.
how many years?
Um,
Down here in Rehoboth.
13 years full time here in Rehoboth. Yes, I was in the mortgage business before that, back in Bucks County, and I had my real estate license in Pennsylvania, New Jersey as well. It's real estate. That whole process is one of the most stressful things that anyone goes through, and so. I have my bachelor's in sociology, and people say you never use your counseling degree. And I'm like, in my business, every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
But I love it, and Eric's a builder, so we like to say he builds and I sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us about your business.
I work for Boardwalk Builders. I do a little bit of sales, production coordination. I do a lot.
How many years?
17 years next month. Yeah.
He's modest.
So-
He does a lot. He does a lot.
Yeah.
But, it's a great company.
Yeah.
Great
I
family.
know. I've enjoyed working there. Yeah, it's been great. Great experience.
So your home in Rehoboth is beautiful. I've
Oh,
been
thank
fortunate
you.
enough
Thank
to
you.
be there. And how many years have you been in that home?
17.
Just over 17 years.
Yeah. This will be our 18th Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah.
And let's talk about how many dinner parties have you had at that home?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I don't know. Ooh.
A lot. We're very close with my mother and stepfather, and they live in Lewis, and I was born on Christmas. I'll be 58. I have spent every Christmas, every birthday with my mother my entire life. Not a lot of people can say that.
Yep.
In many ways, she's next to him and Mesh, my best friend, and we're very, very tight. And so we do a lot of family stuff in very traditional ways, but then we also kind of tried to pride ourselves on being the house that you could watch the Oscars, but you can also watch the Super Bowl. Right. And so as long as there's a theme, whether it's the Olympics in whatever country they're in, always.
Yeah.
An excuse for a party.
Any excuse for a party, right?
Exactly.
I mean, if the Olympics are in whatever country, we're going to have food from that country for opening ceremonies, and
I forget what country it was that one year. It was weird food that one year.
Okay.
I don't know. It was.
Korea?
It was.
No, the Thai year, we really liked the one year. I probably shouldn't say that, but anyway, one year it was in Russia. We did like blinis, and we did
wow.
the little,
Yeah. I think it was.
but a little
Somebody made
pancakes.
borscht or something.
Yes,
They brought
exactly.
borscht. Yeah. So.
That's something that not too many people can do. So.
No, exactly.
Like we've even done episodes of Chopped in our house.
wow.
Yeah, like when our godson was younger and brought a friend, and we split up into two teams, went and shopped. We came back and
You cheated a little.
I did not cheat. I'm just competitive.
Yeah.
And we only invited 2 friends over to be the taste testers and the judges.
Okay.
I don't do well losing. Today's a good example.
My team won, by the way.
So he says.
Tell us a little bit about the work of Camp Rehoboth today. Because obviously the community has changed. Things are a little different. How has Camp Rehoboth emerged to keep up with the times?
Sure. That's a very good point. I appreciate you asking. Literally interpreted, Rehoboth means room for all. And I mentioned
Really?
that it does, yes.
Is it?
I found it. Methodist community founded it back in the day, and I've mentioned that many times because that is so classic what Rehoboth truly means, because it is a melting pot of diversity. And CAMP has worked very hard to be an inclusive organization that has built to over time. I said this many times, but I'm stumbling through it. But anyway, that has worked to create safe, inclusive communities with room for all. Not just here in Rehoboth, but throughout Sussex County and throughout the region, in many ways throughout the state. Advocacy is a big part of what CAMP's mission is about. As I talked about earlier with civil unions, CAMP Rehoboth has been on the forefront of civil union efforts, the same-sex marriage efforts, the trans legislation. Every time there's any effort to involving the greater LGBTQ plus community, CAMP Rehoboth is viewed as a source, to help get those things accomplished. It is thankfully a very different time, and to remain relevant for organizations like CAMP that was built and founded at a time when AIDS was a huge issue for countless people, and people at that time had, people needed support, emotional, physical. They needed
financial support for medicines and
right
care and
housing and prescriptions and funeral costs and just many things. Fortunately, we're at a different time, and that has become less of an issue. But CAMP continued to adapt to what was happening in the community, and advocacy became a big part of that. Until I probably shouldn't get political, but until 2016, when we thought we were home free with our rights, we've learned in the last 6 to 7 years that those rights can be threatened. Now there's a very conservative majority on the Supreme Court, which threatens the rights women. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
That's crazy.
And it reminds us how important it is for organizations like CAMP Rehoboth to continue the work that we do, to not only to remain relevant, but to continue to make a difference in the community, so to support all the issues that involve all of us. And so I it's funny because in many ways I'm no longer on the board, and it's funny. I even struggle saying that sometimes, because I have had and continue to have so much pride in being involved with that organization, that created this amazingly beautiful space, and but yeah, there's still work to do.
So let me just ask this question. There is obviously a building here, right? Which is open daily for anybody could come in to get information or guidance. There's a staff.
There's a limited staff. Yes, we have an executive director. We have a communications manager. We have a development manager. We have a health and wellness manager. We have a financial assistant. We have many volunteers who assist, and really the staff is wonderful, incredibly loyal and dedicated, and we're very fortunate to have them. We're also incredibly fortunate to have the volunteer base that we do. That is one of the things I think that drove me continually impressed with the level of commitment that volunteers have. Many people who move to this area are retirees, and this is where they're moving to live out their lives, and they do it because they feel safe and welcome and included. For many years, back in the late 80s and the early 90s, Eric and I said this many times, we used to judge where we felt comfortable living by what our experience was when we went grocery shopping. Because two men pushing a grocery cart in 1991 and 92 and 93, I mean, I'm a big feminist at heart, but no offense, but there was one time there was a mother pushing a cart with kids and looked right at us and turned and walked those kids the other direction, and I felt like they didn't want those kids to walk by us.
Like they're going to catch it or something.
Like they're going to catch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, one of the reasons we moved to New Hope and then to Rehoboth is because of how inclusive the communities are. And
so CAMP Rehoboth is fully funded by donations, correct? Grants.
Grants to the state and other sources.
Yep.
it's a lot of work.
So this is your time. You could plug Camp Rehoboth.
Yeah, and I appreciate you asking. I mean, this space, this real estate. I mean, it's a big financial responsibility, and
That was a good
The
word.
upkeep. Right.
yeah, they're mortgages.
You're paying some salaries, I'm sure, too.
Correct.
Salaries and the mortgage to keep this.
Right.
And and it's not just the community center in this space. We provide services for testing services throughout the county in 5 or 6 different satellite offices, smaller spaces around the county, because there are greater needs in other areas of the county, in many ways. And but I've mentioned advocacy, health and wellness, and community outreach, and I feel like I could go on and on about Camp Rehoboth.
What about the work they do with the police officers in town?
Yeah, it's one of the programs that I love, and I'm proud to have participated 5 or 6 times. Every spring, the city hires part-time police that come in. Many of them are kids that are in law school or criminal justice or whatever, and the part-time police force. We do a sensitivity training with them, and we go, and we're like, you may walk down the street and there's a same-sex couple holding hands and they're being taunted by someone else, or whatever the experience may be.
How are you diffusing that? How
Right.
are you managing that?
Correct.
Exactly.
That could be scary for somebody in that
Correct.
position.
Yeah.
And not only that, but there are a lot of people visiting the area who come here from all over the country, who hear what a wonderful place this is, and they don't know where this or that or Camp Rehoboth is, and so they're a resource as well.
Right.
But it's a really important training that we do that helps carry our work into the community, because it's those types of conversations. I've said this many times too. I mean, they're kids to me now because everybody's younger, but
How did that happen?
Yeah.
they are going to take that training and that conversation back to their homes, back to their classrooms, back to their friends, and be like, you know what? I never met a gay person before or a lesbian before or whatever. They were okay. You know what I mean? Like, those kind of conversations help in many ways the process of acceptance that our community has worked so hard for over the years.
So I'm going to ask you a big question that I've asked all the cast members. So first, before I do that, let's talk a little bit about dinner parties. One of the things is, I felt like everybody was so nice in the critique.
Yeah.
No. Right?
Well,
do you think it was me? So
we didn't realize
you
this.
guys were the best.
We didn't realize this, but we gave the harshest scores. We were
We didn't think we were, but when we saw the episode, we're like, and some people were giving scores above what you're supposed to. And I'm like, are they thinking about the fact that this is a competition?
Right, exactly. I'm like, so, I mean, for everybody who's given all these high scores, do they not want to win? Because that means there's no room for anyone to do better,
So, was that the first time you had met some of the other cast members?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we had that one meeting
We had the
prior,
meeting,
yeah.
Right.
But
Which I think is one of the reasons it works and makes it interesting. Because if you just had 5 couples who all knew each other and they'd be talking about, it would be more gossipy.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's a chance to get to know each other and learn. And it's a pretty diverse group.
It is. It's a very diverse cast.
Yeah.
But no, it's fun. Our competitive nature. I was glad that didn't particularly come out too much in the first episode from my
No, it
standpoint.
didn't.
At least from mine. Maybe it did. I don't know.
No.
But all we did was say, "What about a themed cocktail?" And everyone was like,
loved it.
"What?"
I love that.
And I'm like, "Have you never heard of that?" Like,
Well, some of the other podcasts, some of the other cast members during the podcast, they were literally like, they didn't even cook the meal themselves. They hired a caterer.
I know,
yeah.
I know. And we did not say that, but we are foodies, so we have
Yeah.
some thoughts on our party.
Uh-huh.
So here's our big question.
Yes.
Okay.
Every cast member has got this question thanks to Griffey, our new social network manager. If the sky was the limit, there was no budget, there was no constraints, there was nothing. Mm-hmm. What would your ultimate dinner party look like and feel like, and what would it be? And you each get to name 5 special guests that you would invite. They could be dead or alive, famous, not famous, family members. Tell me what that is for each one of you.
gosh.
Goodness gracious. You need to answer first because I have to think about it.
No, I mean, the sky's the limit. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start.
And a lot of people, like, when we said this, they were not really, they didn't care that the sky was the limit. Like, a number of cast members picked their homes.
Well,
And, like, familiar places. And
right.
So,
I mean, we threw a party, spring or summertime party once that I always loved, and it was in our front yard of all places.
at your house now?
Yeah, and we did tables with linens and white chairs, and we did lights across the front yard, lanterns. Chinese. Did we do the lanterns? Yeah.
Multicolored.
And it was just, everyone in the front yard. Like you don't normally see that, and neighbors saw it happening. And like, what's going on? This looks really cool. So in my opinion, that's what I think.
And we could add on to it, like you could provide transportation to and from your home for the crew, because God knows most of us like to consume some libations. And maybe you would do a progressive thing around. I would love to do something progressive around this beautiful community feature. Okay. Maybe you did like an appetizer at one location, a second course at another, but you would have had the main course at our home. I'm thinking.
That's what I want the last dinner party show to be, a progressive.
I love that idea.
Oh, here you go. Like, rent the property we did
Don't
for
give
our
ideas
wedding.
to the other teams.
For our wedding, and do tables and chairs next to the water on Silver Lake.
Silver Lake, yeah, that was beautiful.
That was
It's funny. I'm thinking when you were asking the question, I was thinking of dear friends of ours, our straight besties who were in our wedding, and they've been to our home for Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter numerous times. And the very first time they were at our house for Thanksgiving, because when we got married, we had 5 or 6 our closest friends do blessings in the wedding. And she said, the first time I was at Chris and Eric's home and in the kitchen watching them cook for their family and their friends, I knew I was in a home. Like, it was hard.
Compliment.
I knew immediately that a family lived there. And
the pictures and the memories, and
because as liberal as our politics are, particularly mine, we are very conservative and traditional when it comes to those types of things.
You have a lovely home.
Well, we're proud of it, and thank you. That makes us very happy. We're proud
So
of it.
who would your 5 be?
Oh my God.
You could not 5 and you could not 5.
Oh my.
Why don't you pick one? I'll pick one. You pick one.
Oh gosh, I don't know. 5.
Every now and then we'll joke and say, "Don't we want to be friends with so and so and have them?"
Yeah,
over
but now,
dinner?"
can you think of who that is?
Well, I mean, I would love to have Hillary and Bill Clinton over for dinner.
Okay.
Barack and Michelle, of course. The
Yeah,
Bidens.
definitely.
Now it's becoming political, but
Right. You might know.
Think about famous people, authors, artists, anybody, your family, maybe some deceased members of your family that you might.
Katy Perry. We always wanted to be friends with Katy Perry. I mean, she seems to like a blast.
Right.
That's true. Yeah, that's good. That would be a really tough one. Wow.
I love that they say Katy Perry. You hear that, Katy Perry? They want you.
Yes, I know.
You're getting the next invite to our dinner party.
I know.
Who else? Oh my gosh.
I mean, he's not a sports buff. I'm a bigger sports fan than him. But
Sports people, okay.
yeah, Joe
That'd be
Paterno.
interesting.
Joe Paterno.
Oh, well, of course.
Yeah.
Penn State.
We are.
Penn State.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
That's such a good question. Wow, I wish you had told us about that.
Yeah,
ahead of time.
I couldn't have prepped you. No one got prepped. They just got the question on site.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, we are looking forward to doing a real personal approach to our
Okay.
dinner party.
Okay.
So if the sky were the limit, I don't know.
So
I mean,
one of the cast members said that they would want it was a niece, but their future niece at the age of 40 or 50.
oh wow,
So
interesting.
wow. I'm gonna cry again.
And what her life would have, what.
Oh my gosh. Well, Calder would have to be there, whoever it is,
I knew you
and
were
bring
gonna
his
say
husband.
Calder. I knew you were
Because I
gonna
can't wait to meet his husband
his husband.
someday.
Right.
And his husband. Called her and his future husband.
Absolutely, because I hope I live long enough to see him have that life.
Right.
What do you
Called
think
her
about
the future love of his life.
someone
Do you hear that wherever you are?
Like your grandmother, who always...
Your mom's mom? Is she passed? Okay.
My mom and I were with her the day she died, and my mom tells me so many times, your grandmother would be so proud of you. Your grandmother would be so proud of you.
So that would be a great dinner party person, right?
Yeah.
Somebody that
Your
you
grandfather, too.
Yeah.
Who?
His grandfather as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, grandparents, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Wait, this was the podcast where Chris cried.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, and how about Mitzi?
Who's Mitzi?
His
my
mother.
Oh, okay, Mitzi for
my
sure.
mom. Yeah, she would...
What would the drink be?
Oh, what would the drink be?
Frozen
Brandy Alexander's.
What?
Yeah.
Go, Mitzi.
She brought them to Thanksgiving one year, and she just sat there at the bar watching us cook. She goes, "This is great."
Why haven't we done She's like, why haven't we done this years ago? I'm just watching all the cooking being done, enjoying my Brandy Alexander.
As I'm sipping my brandy.
Yeah.
Like frozen brandy Alexander. She had some creativity.
She's used vanilla ice cream.
Stop it.
And for dessert,
Vanilla ice cream to make them.
another nod to your mom would be for dessert.
For dessert.
Oh,
my mom's hot milk
sponge cake.
Sponge cake, yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
Her
really
signature.
good. Did you guys ever make it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, woo, dessert the next day.
I'll start practicing. She did a really good job. I don't do as well. So.
That was a universal with the whole family, and your mom's hot milk
Yeah.
sponge
Well,
cake.
when we were talking to the priest before he was going to talk about
After
my
his mom
mom,
passed.
he said, "What was your like? If she made dinner and it was everyone raved over it, what was the thing?" And we all said hot milk sponge cake. It wasn't
All three of the kids said it in unison.
Yeah,
We all
yeah.
really did,
Right.
even the
Right.
spouses and the nieces.
Right.
Yeah, that was it.
That was good.
Yeah, I wasn't that she was a bad cook. It's just that was,
Yeah, that was
she
her
was
thing.
known for that.
That's her thing. Yeah. Everybody has a dish. Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody has a special dish that's theirs. And I love that, you know.
Yeah.
So the other question we have is like, what do you feel like, we talked a little bit about like, what brings the community or your people together around? Why is it important to be around the table? Why is the dinner party important? What do you think like that sort of alludes, like the vibe and like what, you know, it's so special, right? And so think, like I mentioned today, like, okay, like one of the most famous dinner parties was like the Last Supper.
Right.
Didn't turn out so good, but, you know.
Exactly.
Right.
But you know, particularly today, when I don't know if it's a generational thing or not, it almost feels like dinner parties are an old-fashioned thing to do in many ways.
Okay.
Because a lot of families, and it's on the run, not
Yeah.
together. You
Yeah.
know, dinner party assembling around, you know, a table. The table becomes the bonding agent for the communication, you know, that you will take with you. I mean, we have a couple so-called rules with our dinner parties is, you know, if it's not one bottle of wine per person, it's really not a good dinner party. That may come across wrong, but I'm just saying. But that's number one. But also is learning something about someone else that you
Right,
didn't
it's about
know
the
before.
conversation that you have during and after dinner while you sit there and enjoy everyone's company. So, yeah.
So if you had to pick another host for our podcast, not me, I'm out, I'm firing myself, who would it be?
Another host.
A different host, not
Just
me.
like someone to host.
Anyone? Like,
Anybody you would think that you would like, because I was thinking Mona Lotz might be a good host.
oh.
Like maybe somebody tied into Rehoboth, to the community, or
Right.
Lewis, like down here, who's
Right.
sort of like, who could move the conversation along and keep
Right.
it fun and interesting. Like,
Yeah.
Sure. Why don't we just call Joe or Jill? They're right down the street.
the number one citizens are the most
Yeah.
famous citizens here.
Yeah.
Dr. Jill loves Lori's chicken salad,
Really?
where we're sitting in the
So
courtyard.
we can
Yeah,
invite
we-
Dr. Jill maybe
Well, there you go.
to host the podcast.
There you go.
There you go. Right.
I mean, this town has a lot of
A lot of
great-
characters. That's why.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah.
Tony Burns, he has a lot of stories.
He does have a lot of stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a good dinner guest as well because he has so many great stories.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's been a long exhausting weekend.
Hold
Yeah,
on, we know,
yeah.
right? Yeah. You even made food this weekend, so like, Chris and Eric hosted the best tailgate party for the Sea Witch Parade, everybody, which you will see pictures of.
It was a lot of fun. It was
fun.
the largest one I think we've ever done.
Yeah,
It was
25 people.
about 25 people.
Griffey
yeah.
got hit on the head with a few beads.
I know, right?
Got smacked with some beads. Yeah. Wait, I didn't even wave.
That became a new tradition or something because I had no idea what was happening
Yeah.
at that point.
But next year we're going to be throwing beads off the balcony. Aren't
There we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a lot of fun.
You just got to book the rooms now.
And that concludes today's episode with the Beagleharts. To show your support for Camp Rehoboth, you could follow them on Instagram at Camp Rehoboth or check out their website, camprehoboth.com. Support for the show comes from Blind Eye Productions and in collaboration with Cabin Fever Events Company. We are currently looking for funding to finalize the production of our season 1. If you or an organization you are a part of would like to participate, please reach out to us at dinnerpartiesrehobothbeach@gmail.com. Like I said, that is dinnerpartiesrehobothbeach@gmail.com. Other than that, please take time, watch episode 1, see what we're all about, as well as follow us on social media to keep up with the cast members. Other than that, have a great day, and thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.